So welcome back to the final basic Saturday Sampler block for 2023 here at Close to Home in Southington. So you can bring in your completed November block, basic block, from starting Saturday, December 16th through December 31st to receive this December kit free. Our 12 Days of Christmas sale is still in full swing with many machines, cabinets, chairs, etc. on sale until Saturday, December 16th. Also, in lieu of our usual Finish the Bolt sale, we will have a 50% off entire table sale until Saturday, December 16th also. So it's important that you get in here this Saturday. You can sign up for January's 2024 sampler. You can stick with basic. You can move to intermediate. You could do both. We'd love to have you back, but the registration fee going forward for 2024 is $25. That does include your first kit. Okay. That fee includes your first block. If you are late picking up your block for the year or forget it, for instance, the kit fee will remain $10, but always the first one for 2024 is going to be $25. So hope that's you understand. If not, we're here to answer your questions. So moving forward, this block for basic December's block is really a strip set, and you might think that it's pretty easy just sewing a bunch of strips together, but we're going to kind of go back to basics again and really think about cutting, sewing, and pressing, and making sure that this unfinished strip set is 4.5 inches the entire length of the strip. Sometimes we get carried away, we don't keep our edges nice together, or we tend to stray a little bit. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about what a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance is, because it really seems to help get this to be the size that we need it to be. Okay, so basically once we get our strip set cut, we're just going to cut 9 4.5 inch squares out of that and sew those together, and that's our block. So nice and simple, but a couple of things we do definitely want to go over. Number one, cutting. So I have already put a little bit of Mary Ellen's Best Press into my kit fabrics. I have a fold on each one of these. Your kit includes the entire width of fabric from selvage to selvage, and we have to really think about when was the last time we changed our rotary blade, because having a nice straight cut is really helpful when we go to sew our 1/4 inch seam allowance or our scant 1/4 inch this month. So I've changed my blade. I just want to show that you make one pass with your blade. This back and forth or it pulling is really not helpful to getting a good result. Okay, so I'm going to take and cut 2 of these at the same time, and I'm just going to show you how it's important to line up your fold with the ruler so you get a nice 90-degree cut. So the first thing we want to do is cut. So let's spend a few minutes cutting our strips. All right, so I will do 2 at a time, and in this case the orange and the yellow are sewn together, but again you can do any variation of the strip set that you want. So I'm going to line up my folds up here, and I'm going to line up pretty close one edge of my strips on this side. Okay, so you have 2.5. Basically all these have to be cut at 1.5. Very, very accurate. Okay, so I'm going to take my ruler And I'm going to look for one of these solid lines going across my ruler, and that solid line is going to go right on the fold. So when I cut this, I know that when I open my strip, this is going to be straight continuation throughout the fold. So I just want to make sure that one of these lines is lined up with the fold, and then I see all my fabric going down. I might miss a little bit here, so I'm just going to slide it over just to make sure that I can get a nice cut for all 4 layers of my fabric. All right. So again, open up your blade, make sure it's a nice new blade. I can't just hold it and cut it because I'll push my ruler up this way. So I do want to start pushing down on the ruler and push away in one motion. I stop about halfway through, move my hand, hold my ruler down, and continue moving forward all the way through my strip, okay? If you feel that there's pieces that are pulled, you really do need a new blade, all right? So what you can do is you can rotate your mat, which is always the best thing to do, because I'm just going to rotate it because I don't really want to move that strip. I really don't want to lose that line of cut here by bowing it or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and find my 1.5 and lay it right on the same exact line I just cut, my nice straight edge that I cut. And this is 1.5 because I have my half side plus my 1. And you're going to cut all your strips 1.5. So let's repeat. Hold the ruler nice and flat, straight down, using a little bit of pressure with your arm. And I'm going to push away, stop about half, move my hand, push down on the ruler, and again, straight through. All right, so I have a 1.5-inch strip. All right, so that's cutting. And we're going to do the remainder with the red and the blue, same thing. When we go ahead and sew what I consider a scant 1/4 inch, it's just going to help get your strip to be, your strip set to be a 4.5. A 1/4 inch is nice, but if you allow for a little extra wiggle room on the pressing, because we have 4 seams in a very short area, we want to allow a little bit more fabric or a little less in our 1/4 inch. So instead of a 1/4, we're just a few threads shy of a 1/4. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and sew nice and straight. Another thing to remember is to keep your fabrics right on top of each other. I shouldn't see any orange when I'm looking from the top. I should just see, you know, that I have the orange there. But if it moves like this and I see orange on this side, it means I'm not sewing an accurate 1/4 inch on both of my fabrics. They have to be right on top of each other. All right, so let me go ahead and I'll show you the scant 1/4. I'll show you a 1/4 and then the scant 1/4. How's that? So on this machine, this is my 1/4 inch foot, and the edge of my fabric is right on the edge of the foot. Mostly, if you have a guide or the edge of your 1/4 inch foot, that's your 1/4 inch. Also, on my stitch plate, I have a little tiny tick mark that's also my 1/4 inch. So that's great. That's a great 1/4 inch, and that's usually what I use. But for something like this, I honestly like to just move my fabric a couple threads so that I have a clear view of my 1/4. So you see it's only a couple threads on the inside of my foot. All right, so that is where I want to begin to sew. And try to keep it as straight as possible. You can go nice and slow. You can almost put your hand here and just let the feed dogs pull as you're guiding it. And you try not to steer it. Just let it go nice and slow. If you feel that you're starting to see a little bit of an orange, just kind of shimmy your two pieces of strip together. And again, a little bit of a scant 1/4 of an inch is going to be very, very helpful. All right. So on this, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to a 1/4. And I'll show you when I press what the difference is. So let me go ahead, and so at what I consider a 1/4, what I found is a very accurate 1/4 of an inch. But it's just over a period of 4 strips together, you're going to see a big difference in the pressing. Okay, so I don't know if you can see. But at this point, it's very, very hard to tell that this was the scant and this was the 1/4. But you can tell there is a couple threads difference. And now when I press this, this is going to be right where I want. 1.5 plus 1.5 is 3 minus a 1/2 inch. This should be 2.5. So let's go press this real quick and see if we can see a difference. When we have all our strips sewn together, what you're going to do is you're going to put your hand here and press away. All right, so I imagine that I have all my strips together. You're just going to lower your iron down on the first strip, kind of lift the rest of the rows, and just kind of push away and get that nice flat seam. And push away. All right, so let's see what this measures versus up here. I can see where it changed right there. Come on over. Right here? Okay. All right. So when we put our ruler on, we want to see 2.5. So this is right at the edge of my strip, and you can see we're pretty darn close to 2.5 going through here. It's a little, but that's pretty close to 2.5. So let's go down here where I had a 1/4, and it's pretty close, but you can see in some spots that it's a little shy. And if I do a little shy, a little shy, a little shy, before I know it, my 4.5 is only going to be 4.25. Okay, so maybe you want to try practicing with some fabric you have at home, just to make sure you really have a nice idea of what that scant 1/4 of an inch should look like. All right, so once we get our strips pressed and we measure them, again, they should be 4.5 inches up here, in the middle, all the way down. We can put our ruler down and really kind of check to see that we're on the 4.5 inch path right here. Okay, pretty straight, pretty accurate. The lines are on our seams are all very accurate. Okay, it's hard. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It is hard, and it takes a lot of practice. All right. So once we get our strip set to 4.5 inches, we're just going to go ahead and subcut. So when we subcut 4.5, it's the same thing. We want to follow one of these solid lines with one of the seam lines so that they all go across. You can see that they're all 1 inch and 1.25 on the edges. And we're just, when we have that centered, we're just going to cut up our selvage to get a nice straight edge. We're going to rotate our fabric because I am right-handed. Go ahead and place our ruler back on the 4.5 inch mark, lining up each of these lines with our seams, making sure we count over half, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, and go ahead and cut. All right, so we need a total of 9 4.5-inch squares. I'm gonna find my, again, put it on the line. That's the easiest one for me to see. Measure 4.5 and cut another one. So this will do 9 plus a little extra. And when you're done with these, all we're gonna do is sew them into a 9 patch, basically. We're gonna put the first one in this direction, the next one in this direction, and this one. So these 2 rows are identical, with the orange at the top, the reds at the bottom. And then the middle one is turned sideways. Okay? The middle row has 2 turned sideways, and the one in the middle is with the orange at the top. So once you sew your 3 rows together, go ahead, your 3 pieces, sew your rows together. It's hopefully a very quick, easy block for you this month. It is the holidays, and I wish you all the best. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to sign up this weekend for next year.